The forest of Virelia breathed like a living ocean. Mist drifted between colossal violet-trunked trees whose canopies blotted out the sky. Bioluminescent spores floated through the air like slow-falling stars. Every surface shimmered faintly, as though the planet itself pulsed with quiet awareness. Sereth moved silently through the undergrowth, 6 delicate limbs carrying her weight with the ease of long habit. Her chitinous exoskeleton reflected faint glimmers of green light. 2 elongated eyes swiveled independently, tracking movement in every direction. She had lived in these woods for 23 cycles, ever since the great fracture shattered her civilization. She had not seen another of her kind in 12 years. The world beyond the forest had burned when the sky fire came. She still remembered it, a streak of white brilliance tearing through the heavens, a roaring impact, a wave of heat that turned entire cities to glass. The elders had said it was the arrival of the sky hunters, metal beasts from the void. Some said they were gods. Others said devils. All Sereth knew was that when the sky fire came, everything died. Except her. She had fled into the deep forest as the world fell apart behind her. The forest had become her shelter, her prison, her only companion. Over the cycles, she learned every whisper of wind, every call of predator, every shift of the luminous fungi beneath her feet. She survived by caution. Nothing entered the forest without purpose, and nothing left it alive without permission. Tonight, something had entered. A sound rippled through the trees, metal striking stone. It was distant but unmistakable. Not natural. Not animal. Intelligence flickered in Sereth's mind. A traveler. A hunter. Or something worse. She moved toward the noise, her steps soundless. Branches parted to let her pass. The forest accepted her as one of its own. She climbed a thick root arching above a ravine and looked down. There, at the forest's edge, stood a figure. It was tall, 2-limbed, upright, covered in dull gray armor that reflected the glow of the spores. A pack rested on its back. A long metal rod hung from one side. Its head turned slowly, scanning the woods. Sereth had never seen such a being. It was not of her world. A sky hunter. Her body stiffened. Instinct urged her to flee. Or to strike. But curiosity held her. The figure raised a small object to its face. A faint beam of white light swept across the trees. Sereth recoiled as it passed near her, but the beam did not touch her. The being spoke, a series of rough, sharp sounds, meaningless to her ears. Then it stepped into the forest. Every muscle in Sereth's body tightened. The forest had hidden her for years, but this intruder brought metal, fire, and noise. If it was like the sky hunters, it could bring death. She followed from above, leaping silently between branches. The being moved clumsily through the undergrowth, snapping brittle fungal stalks underfoot. Its light flicked across ancient trunks. Its breathing was audible, slow and heavy. Not a predator's breath, Sereth thought. A tired one. Hours passed. The figure pressed deeper into the woods. Eventually, it stopped beside a pool of glowing water. It removed the pack from its back and sat heavily upon a rock. It lifted its head and removed its helmet. Sereth froze. The face beneath was soft-skinned, pale. 2 eyes. 1 nose. A mouth. No mandibles. No sensory fronds. No chitin. Flesh. Sereth's mind searched for meaning. This creature was fragile. Exposed. It should not survive here. The being dipped a container into the glowing water and drank. It exhaled slowly, then stared at the forest around it. Then, unexpectedly, it spoke again. Its voice was softer now, almost weary. "I know you're there." Sereth's limbs stiffened. The being turned its head upward, looking directly toward her perch. "I don't mean you harm," it said. "I'm just lost."
Lost.
A lost sky hunter? Sereth shifted slightly. A branch creaked. The being did not raise its weapon. Instead, it placed it gently on the ground. "I've been alone a long time," it continued. "If you're listening, I'd rather not be alone anymore." The forest grew still. Sereth studied the creature. Its eyes were wide but not aggressive. Its posture open, vulnerable. She descended from the branch, landing on the moss-covered ground with no sound. The being startled, drawing in breath, but did not reach for its weapon. Sereth stepped into the glow of the pool. The being stared. "You're beautiful," it whispered. Sereth tilted her head. The creature's voice carried emotion, wonder, not fear. She tapped one limb gently against her chest, a gesture from her people. "Sereth." Then she pointed at the being. It blinked, then slowly tapped its own chest. "Jonah," it said. They regarded one another across the glowing water. Two survivors. Two species. Alone no longer. Over the following days, Sereth watched Jonah closely. He moved with awkward care through the forest. He ate preserved food from metal containers. He spoke often, even when Sereth did not respond with words. He seemed to understand that sound was his bridge to the silence between them. He built a small shelter from fallen branches. He struggled, but persisted. Sereth watched from nearby, occasionally nudging a branch into a better position. Jonah learned to follow her silent suggestions. He showed her images on a glowing tablet, pictures of a blue world filled with oceans and clouds, cities of towering steel, other humans, laughing, holding one another. "My home," Jonah said quietly. "Earth." Sereth watched the images with fascination. She showed him the forest in return, leading him to glowing mushrooms that sang when touched, to rivers that flowed upward at dawn, to the nests of six-winged gliders. They shared food. They shared warmth by fire. Jonah shivered at night. Sereth stood close to block the wind. Trust grew between them, fragile but real. One evening, Jonah sat staring into the fire. "My ship crashed," he said. "I was part of an exploration team. We picked up strange readings here. Then something hit us. I woke up alone." Sereth listened. Jonah's eyes grew distant. "I thought I'd die here. Alone. I even came into this forest expecting that." He looked at Sereth. "Guess I was wrong." Sereth touched his shoulder gently with one limb. Not alone. The peace did not last. One night, the forest screamed. A distant roar shook the ground. Trees trembled. Birds of light scattered into the sky. Sereth knew the sound. Sky hunters. Jonah heard it too. He grabbed his weapon, eyes wide. "Not again," he muttered. Sereth led him to a high ridge overlooking the plains beyond the forest. From there, they saw them. Metal giants walking on four legs. Black ships descending from the clouds. Fire raining onto the dead world beyond the woods. Sereth's memories burned. Jonah whispered, "Automated war machines from my world's early expansion era. But they shouldn't be here." One of the machines turned its head toward the forest. Scanning. Searching. Sereth knew they would come. The forest had hidden her for years, but now the hunters had better eyes. Better weapons. Jonah placed a hand on her carapace. "They're not just your enemy," he said. "They're mine too." Sereth clicked softly. "Together." Jonah smiled grimly. "Yeah, together." They prepared quickly. Sereth called upon the forest. Bioluminescent vines coiled into living traps. Spores thickened into blinding clouds. Predators of fong and venom gathered, answering the silent will of their forest-born guardian. Jonah adjusted his weapon, setting power cells. He placed small metal spheres along paths, muttering about proximity mines. When the first machine entered the forest, the earth itself seemed to rise against it. Vines snapped its legs. Creatures swarmed its joints. Jonah's weapon roared, punching molten holes through metal armor. The machine collapsed, burning. More followed. Fire and plasma tore through the trees. Parts of the forest burned. Sareth felt pain as if her own body were being scorched, but she did not retreat. She leapt onto a machine's back, driving her claws into its sensors. Jonah threw a device that erupted into white light, frying its circuits. They fought as one mind, as one will. Hours later, silence returned. Smoke drifted above ruined metal hulks. The forest hissed and slowly began to heal. New shoots already sprouted from burned roots. Jonah sat on the ground, exhausted. Sareth stood beside him, limbs trembling. They had survived. Again. Days later, Jonah looked at the sky. "If I repair one of their transmitters," he said, "I might contact my people." Sareth regarded him. "You don't have to come," Jonah said softly. "If rescue comes, it might mean more sky hunters. More machines." Sareth understood. This forest was her home. But Jonah, he had become something rare. A friend. A bond across worlds. Sareth placed a limb on his hand. "Choice." Jonah smiled sadly. "I'll stay," he said. "At least until we're sure they're gone. Maybe longer." Sareth's eyes shimmered with soft light. Not alone. Jonah looked at the forest, at the glowing world that had become his refuge. "Guess I wasn't meant to die here," he said. "Guess I was meant to find you." And beneath the towering violet trees of Aurelia, two survivors watched the sunrise of a healed world, no longer alone, no longer afraid, bound by trust between stars. The forest took a long time to heal. Charred trunks stood like blackened monuments where metal had burned them. The glowing fungi returned slowly, timidly, as though unsure whether the world was safe again. Streams that once sang now murmured softly, testing their voices. Sareth walked among it all, feeling every wound as though it were carved into her own shell. Jonah helped however he could. He carried water to dying roots. He lifted fallen logs away from crushed nests. He spoke to the forest as though it were a person, thanking it, apologizing to it, promising it he would not let harm come again. Some nights, Sareth watched him from the treetops, strange warmth filling her thorax. Humans were fragile, slow, noisy. Yet this one had stood against steel giants with nothing but will and fire in his hands. HFY, indeed, though she did not know the phrase. Only the meaning. Days passed. Then weeks. One morning, Jonah emerged from the shelter holding a metal device covered in wires. He looked more tired than she had ever seen him. "It works," he said quietly. Sareth tilted her head. "A transmitter. I rebuilt it from the machine's parts. If I turn it on, someone out there might hear me." He stared at the device for a long moment. "Rescue ships," he said. "Scientists. Soldiers. Colonizers. I don't know who would come." Sareth's limbs tightened slightly. The sky hunters might return. Jonah noticed. He set the transmitter down. "I won't do it without your choice," he said. "This is your world. You saved me. I won't summon more danger to it unless you want that." Sareth regarded him. This strange being from the stars. Once alone. Now part of her forest story. She walked past him, toward the cliff overlooking the plains. The sunrise painted the sky in gold and violet. New green shoots pushed through ash. Life reclaiming death. She clicked softly. "Stay." Jonah exhaled, smiling with quiet relief. "Then I stay," he said. No radio call. No rescue. Just us. Sareth reached out and touched his hand. Warm flesh against cool chitin. Not alone. Not ever again. Years later, when travelers would whisper of a forest that swallowed metal giants and sang with living light, they would speak of a silent guardian with shining eyes and of a strange two-legged companion who carried fire in his hands and kindness in his voice. A world once broken had grown whole. Because one survivor had met another. Because even in alien forests, humanity endured.